I had a big awakening. I had taken notes and found out what they didn't know. And that's what I put in this book. How to value yourself, how to handle your anger, how to learn from your mistakes, how to find your spiritual center within yourself. And so we had 4 successes. Involvement is about prevention. It's not going to be government.
That's good. Yeah, you should repeat that.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, because people are looking for somebody else to fix us. Not going to happen. He and I just sat and talked for a couple of months. And one day he said, you know, I've been talking to the guys about what we're talking about. Now, I wasn't talking about anything in particular, except things I had told my children when they were 6, 7, 8 years old, 9 years old, 12 years old. And he was going, he never heard any of it. He never valued himself. He didn't know how to handle his anger. He didn't know how to learn from his mistakes. And he was just all wound up. The spiritually centered child is protected and safe because they know how to speak up, they know how to value themselves, they know that they have worth, and they have a self-protective conscience, so that they're kind of like the Teflon man. You know, you can throw things at them, but it's not going to bother them. So they are spiritually centered. Now, if a child is born and raised in an abusive situation, they can go and be a bully, that's off-center, or be a victim, which is off-center. They're both off-center. And this bully is attracted to the victim. You know, if you can stand up for yourself, he won't bother you, or she won't bother you. But if you kind of back off and you act fearful and afraid, that's what the bully's looking for, because that's what he sees in his household more often than not. So if he sees that you are backing off, he wants power and control over you because he feels powerless at home. So, and that's not always the case, but it's more often than not. So the goal of every parent should be to get their child to a point where they're spiritually centered within themselves and they feel strong, and that's exactly why I wrote the book, because it's so important to give children those tools.
Absolutely.
Spiritually centered child. Our children are amazing, all of them. I don't care who they are, even the kids in trouble. They have an amazing inner spirit, and we need to tell them that. We need to value. I taught in an after-school program, and the kids, they were middle school age, 7th grade, 8th grade, that age group, 11, 12. And this is a hard age for, excuse me, parents. And it's a hard age for teachers, because it's a transition age.
Yes.
And they are so smart. And I would talk about, you know, how important it was. You value yourself. Take charge of your life, because nobody's going to live your life but yours. And one little boy, I told him how incredible he was, and I was telling the whole class, and his eyes got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I said, you look like you have a question, or you wanted to say something. And he said, I don't think I'm that good. And I said, what makes you say that? And he said, my daddy tells me I'm stupid. And I said, oh. And I said, why does he say that? And he said, well, I don't do well in math, and I want to be a mechanic. And he said, if you are so stupid about learning your math, you'll never be a mechanic. You'll never be anything. You'll never be any good. And I said, well, let me explain this. I said, you may not be smart about math now, but you will learn it as you need it. If you really want to be a mechanic, you have an awesome brain. You can learn how to do your math. But I said, don't be hard on yourself, and understand that Dad, he's trying to help, but just remember, you are an amazing little boy, and you can learn to do whatever you want to do. And he walked out of that class like he was on air, because nobody had ever said to him, you can do it. You can be what you want to be. Because what he wanted to be wasn't what his dad thought he could be. And of course, your dad and mom are so important to you. Using your instincts and being aware of your surroundings. Now, these kids were in a difficult area, so I wanted to particularly mention to them that you got to stay alert. And if you see something and you feel, we all have that gut feeling, and listen to it. So this young girl, she was 12, I think. She was walking down the street, and here comes a car, and it drove up in front of her, and the guy got out of the car. He walked around and opened the passenger car door as she's coming toward him. Well, put on her alert right there. And she went, her heart started to beat, and she thought, okay, what am I going to do if he makes it? Well, now the sidewalk isn't that big, okay. So as she comes by, he grabs her by the backpack and tries to force her in the car. She slips out of her backpack and runs and takes off. She turns around and he slammed the backpack and took off.
Wow.
So that was just one example of a young lady being reinforced that she has the power to keep herself safe by using her instincts. And that's what she did. Here are some tips for you. And one of them is the listening chair. And I learned this at a neighborhood meeting. One woman said, her kids, she had 4 kids, can't remember. But she said, I was going crazy. They're running around, they're fighting with each other. Children can be difficult to raise. There's no doubt about it. I have 3 myself. And she said, I finally put a chair in the kitchen. And I said, all right, if anybody has a problem, you sit in the chair and everybody has to stop what they're doing and listen. We're going to listen to you and find if we can find a solution. Well, the kids would sit in the chair and talk about their problems, and then Jamie did this and Janie did that, and the other one would sit in the chair and explain them, and they would get up and shake hands because they addressed their issues. The parents were, if the parent was home, one parent or the other, they would listen and be able to say, oh my gosh, okay, we solved that. Well, if you don't solve problems in the household, they keep butting heads, and then resentments build, and pretty soon you got siblings that don't even talk to each other. That's in the worst scenario. But I thought the listening chair was a fabulous idea because kids got to express themselves, and they also began to solve their own problems. And that's critical. Kids need to solve their own problems. Mothers can't run to school and solve the bully and that sort of thing, but it's up to the parents to actually listen to their children and believe them. And so that's one of the ideas is